Well, in case you're watching, I'm making sure that we're actually broadcasting here. So I hope you'll forgive me for just making a few checks. I'm still a baby boomer beginner at some of this stuff. So, I got to make sure I got everything working right here. Make sure the chat room is on for a change. Not that I can see it. Wow. Whole potential. Okay, we don't want that for now. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I think everything's working. My bit rate is real low because my internet service is still not capable of handling the full signal, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. But this is better than nothing, and as soon as the service provider can get out this way, we'll have something a little better, or I might be moving, I'm not sure yet, and not just for this reason, for some other reasons as well. Okay, I think we've got it going here. It looks like it is. So before we get started, welcome everyone. I'm Roy Potter. This is the live stream version of the Potter Expositor, and I hope the sound is okay. If it's too loud, let me know. I can adjust the matter of fact, I think I'll just go ahead and do that. I'm going to lower the volume just a little bit. It looks like I'm going just a little over the maximum. Let's see, that should be a little better. Yeah, if you'll let me know if that sounds okay now, that would be helpful so that I know. Sounds good? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. As you can see, I've named this the Memo, SOTU, which is, of course, the State of the Union Address, and FBI rogue sleeper cells. Wow, whoever thought I'd say something like that, and yet the evidence has been there for years. It's been there for a long time. And so it's about time that we said something about it. And I'm going to give you some background on that as well so that you'll know. But let's kind of take things in order. Let's talk about the State of the Union address that President Trump will be giving tonight. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. And as some people have already mentioned, this is most likely going to be a pep talk, a cheerleading type thing. I think he wants to give the nation an upbeat message because of all the crazy things that have happened for so long. And that's a good idea. I think he could probably, and I don't know what his plans are, of course. We've been reading different things about what might happen. He might bring in some of the information about what's happened in the government that's gotten so corrupt. He might bring it in, kind of on the side as issues that he's going to be addressing, but I don't think he's going to concentrate on that. It would be out of character for him other than the MSM, calling the MSM out, and also looking at what he said at Davos, as I said last night. So I think that that's probably going to be the method and the subject matter, but we'll see. I hope, like all of you do, at least most of you, I hope that he at least mentions the fact that the memo, the 4-page memo that shows names, that type of thing, I hope that he at least mentions it, even if he doesn't give any specific information. I hope he does. I think we need to hear that, and the nation does in particular. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention, the memo, of course, and the State of the Union address. And then, last night, as most of you know who watch my channel, I was on Twitter. I was trying to check some last-minute news information, and man, there's just tons of it, as most of you know. And I got this message from a lady by the name of Tracy. Her Twitter handle is @TheTracyHilton. And she said, Roy, you have to go look at Q, because I guess she knows I don't make a habit of that now. Like I said before, I did up until the first part of January. But she says, you have to go check it. Something's come up. A lot of people are in danger. You're good at getting this out. So I appreciate the compliment. I don't know how true that is. But I went ahead and man, these pop-ups are a pain. So I went and took a look at the Q post, and it was, as I mentioned last night, it was a tweet from James Comey, the former director of the FBI, whom President Trump fired for good reason. It should have happened a long time ago, before that. And the tweet was kind of, it seemed innocuous, but there was something about it that just didn't seem right. So after I looked at that, then I looked at Q, because Q had talked about it. So I saw Q, I went and looked at the actual tweet, then came back and looked at Q, and saw Q's explanation of the interpretation, the interpolation of the message. And it did seem to be threatening, not just to McCabe and to FBI agents who might spill their guts, in other words, become whistleblowers, but maybe possibly even to legislative and presidential executive branch leaders as well. Now, while I was giving my summary, my estimate of the situation of that, I was told on both Periscope and on YouTube that Dr. Corsi, Jerome Corsi, was apparently making an emergency explanation on the CBTS board. Actually, on the CBTS, the Calm Before the Storm channel. I guess it's on YouTube. And he was explaining things. And just so that you know, I did not compare notes with him. He came up with his concerns separately from the ones that I did. And actually, that's a good thing. When you're doing intelligence estimates, you really don't want people to get together, at least initially, and compare notes, because then you get an echo chamber. So actually, it turned out pretty well as far as I can tell. And then, of course, since then, I've kind of been mulling things around. I still have not heard his explanation, just so you know. Everything that I talk about in the next few minutes is something that I'm looking at in the big picture. And I don't mean to be a clickbaiter or an alarmist, but we've been dealing with these people for decades in the FBI, in the intelligence community, and everybody knows up front that the motto of my channel is the intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy, and that definitely, absolutely, 100% includes the FBI. I keep hearing about all these good agents, Sebastian Gorka, Dr. Gorka, saying that it was rubbish to say that the FBI is bad, that he's worked with them and he knows how good they are. Well, they're not gonna show him their real hand. I'm sorry, he's not down in the dirt with these guys. He just isn't. And I appreciate what he's trying to do. They're trying to save the institution despite the corruption of the individuals. But the institution itself, the secrecy of the institution, and I don't mean just the small group that was involved in the actual coup. I'm talking about the secrecy of the entire intelligence community is a problem when it doesn't have the, when it says, and the agents have even said that they're independent, that they don't have to answer to anybody. Wrong answer. In a constitutional republic, that's the wrong answer. That should never, ever have gone there. And they'll use excuses for national security and all that, but as you can see, what they've done is they've built their own nation state behind the curtain. That's what they've done. And it's formidable. I talked about when I was doing my FBI corruption series last March, and I've made a playlist that you can see. And I've talked about it off and on, actually way back since 2009 or so. I've mentioned this problem. Senator Inouye of Hawaii brought up during the church hearings in the 70s that the CIA and the intelligence community, in other words, has its own Army, Navy, and Air Force. They have stolen trillions of dollars. What do you think that, they took it out of the Pentagon with the missile that hit the Pentagon that was investigating the loss of the $2.3 trillion that Rumsfeld mentioned the day before. He mentioned on September 10th, and then September 11th, attack occurred and destroyed that part of the Pentagon. And all of the other black ops that they do, the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, the weapons trafficking, the briberies, the blackmails, all of that, and the money that could very likely also come from other places. But they've stolen that, and it's trillions of dollars, and they can operate these shadow government operations just as effectively, if not more so, than most nations. So it's a very serious problem, and I've talked about this for a long time. I don't want to take it too far. Like I said, I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but I think all of the evidence is there, okay? If you look back in the history of this thing, starting with, well, we could go back even further, but we'll just start with the JFK assassination, because everybody knows that Lee Harvey Oswald, if he was a shooter, he was not the only one. Anybody who's gone out and hunted or fired a weapon knows when they see a bullet hit a target what it does, and from what direction it's come. I mean, I'm not going to spend any time on the JFK assassination, but obviously the FBI in some way, shape, or form helped to cover that up. Okay? The CIA and the FBI hadn't been merged completely at that time. That didn't happen until, my estimation, until Mueller came into power in the FBI, and probably not completely until at the point of the Boston bombing. And I've talked about that in my Boston bombing video. I won't waste your time here on that. And then again, to cover that up, you know, not only did I think, and I'm sure that they did, I think they framed the Tsarnaev brothers. I don't think they conducted this. And that's the first thing. And the second thing, of course, and there are reasons for that, and I've talked about the cameras at the finish line, no evidence of the Tsarnaev brothers being there. The apparent photoshopped image of Dzhokhar at the second bombing site, which is about 100 or 200 yards away from the final finish line, things like that. But then the assassination of Todashev by the FBI in Florida. No reason for that. I've done interrogations and interviews. It should never have gotten to a point where somebody had to pull a weapon. That was intentionally planned for that to happen. Whether or not they allowed Todashev to reach for a weapon or whatever, the whole circumstances, knowing how those things work, shows that the FBI wanted that to happen. Wow, I sure get pulling into a lot of things, don't I? Anyway, again, so let's go over this. I don't mean to be an alarmist. I don't mean to use clickbait, but I think it's time that we be honest with ourselves. We are working with a counter-American constitutional republic, anti-constitutional republic intelligence community, and the FBI and the CIA are right at the top, and they're one and the same, as I've said for a long time. The FBI has had too much autonomy. It does answer. It's part of the Justice Department. It does answer to the president, and you know, they serve at his pleasure, basically. And all this nonsense, and I heard Lionel Nation say this yesterday, it's very true, all this nonsense that they're supposed to be independent from the president, that's BS. And it's entirely wrong. I mean, it certainly wasn't the case under Obama, was it? No. Democrats never said anything about an independent FBI being able to work independently of the president then, and it worked to our detriment. You see how they can twist all these things? So, yes, there is a danger that if it works too close to the president, then it becomes subject to the whims of somebody like Obama. But it's interesting how they'll say, well, it's okay under this guy, but not under this guy. I'm not sure what the fix is, but it definitely has to have really, really close oversight by both the president, some type of, you know, apparatus, and certainly by the Congress that funds it and is supposed to make sure that it doesn't step out of bounds. All this independence nonsense, can't tell you because of national security. No, the IC is the problem with our national security. It is the danger of the national security state and all that entails. It is the greatest danger that we face. So let's move on a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit about why I'm concerned about things today. If in fact Q is correct, and again, you know, I've been out of the Q loop for a while. If it is true that Q's estimate of the situation, their explanation of the Comey tweet is accurate, it was very disturbing to see this thing about sleeper cells being activated. Now, we all should know that the IC created ISIS. The CIA created ISIS. FBI has helped to cover it up. Mueller helped to change the Islamic warnings and especially ISIS warnings in government training manuals and other things. McMaster has done the same thing, and you know, I saw it when I was in the Army, how they were trying to gloss over and to polish up the image of Islam. Now, as I've talked about a lot in the past, I recognize from history, I'm a historian, that Islam is an amalgamation of Christianity and Talmudic Judaism, okay? And I don't want to get into that history here. Somebody's asked me to do a religious series, and I will at some point in time. But just suffice it to say that I understand the problems of Zionism and Talmudic Judaism. I understand that, okay? So there are a lot of other players in this. But Islam works because of what it looks like on its face. And so the New World Order has chosen it as the model for the New World Order religion and enforcing its power. So there's a real problem with Islam, and that's why I've concentrated on it, knowing the other side of this. You know, the actual relationship between the Zionists in Israel and Islam and the Arabs, particularly the ones in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabians are really the key, along with the Zionist Israelis, about what happened here with the Balfour Declaration and Lawrence of Arabia and all that. But anyway, the point being that these FBI sleeper cells could be any number of things. We know for a fact, even Andrew Napolitano from Fox News has said that the FBI contrives almost all of the terrorist arrests that it makes, all the terrorist attacks. They've taken some mentally unstable person or whatever and basically told them to go do this, given them the tools to do it, and on some occasions have not made sure that the public was protected. For instance, the World Trade bombing in 1992 or 3 with the van and the Sheik and all of that. That's very well known. The Garland, Texas attack on Pam Geller with the FBI agent that was helping the two ISIS guys to get through and to conduct that terror attack. We could go on a lot of other things. Again, a lot of these false flags have happened. The underwear bomber, you know, I could go on and on and on. The HRT is a problem. I'm not sure of all of its organizational structure. Sorry about the table. But seeing what they did under Lon Horiyuchi, the sniper, at Ruby Ridge, at Waco, and then he wasn't at Malheur at the killing of Lavoy Finicum, which was an assassination probably ordered by Obama, Lynch, Holder, and maybe even Clinton herself, because of his understanding of the issues and what was going on with his ranch in Arizona, if any of you have followed that. Lon Horiyuchi wasn't involved in that, I'm certain. He's been in hiding for a long time. But the principles, I should say the lack of principle, that the HRT has used on numerous occasions, they used again at that Malheur assassination of Lavoy. And they would have killed everybody in his truck, I think, if they had the opportunity. I'd been firing at the truck, of course, as most people know by now. And all of that was covered up by a very corrupt FBI agent in charge in Oregon by the name of Breitzig, okay, along with, of course, Comey and McCabe. So they're all implicated, and that was all about Uranium-1 again. You know, Uranium-1, trying to protect that whole thing and make the innocent Americans who are standing up for their rights to be the antagonists, etc. And I'm not going to go there other than to say, you know, that I thought that the Bundys and their people went too far when they seized the wildlife refuge. That was just a major mistake. I'm just going to say it. I won't go into any more detail. But the point is, that Lavoy Finicum didn't have to be killed because of that. That was definitely an assassination by the FBI under orders from corrupt governments. So here we see the FBI also again working for politicization of the FBI. For whatever reasons, whatever they're promised. Okay, so we had that, and of course most of you know about the LV shooting also, and the cover-up by Special Agent in Charge in Vegas, Aaron Rouse. What's going on there? That's still up in the air. I think all of us have a really good basic idea of what happened, but old liar and deceiver Lombardo, he's still going along with the narrative and still saying that there's a lone shooter, and anybody with any common sense knows that that isn't true. So he's a known liar out front. I hope the people of Vegas boot his ass out of there, but of course the people that actually control the sheriff in Vegas are the casinos and the FBI. So that's one and the same, actually, right? The intelligence community is part of the banking industry, etc. And I'm sure that there's a connection there, without a doubt. So these sleeper cells. What happened was, of course, is that James Comey claimed, I hope that was a good background to show you this is actually a problem. And I could give you more, even some personal examples, but let's go to James Comey's tweet and see what he says here. He basically says that he's warning other FBI agents not to, and this is the code that Q gave, not to go and snitch on the leadership, because the FBI has been the cover for all of these corrupt politicians, which is true. That's exactly what they've been. And as I said last night, True Pundit broke that over a year ago. In a formal way. I've been talking about it for quite some time. And then, of course, they hide the culpable evidence against people like Hillary, but they hide the exculpatory evidence against people like the Bundys. So that's what the FBI does, and the agents have not stood up. Actually, it was a BLM agent who outed the FBI and the Department of Justice in the Bundy case. It was a BLM agent, not an FBI agent. Interesting. So I don't trust the FBI agents. If they come forward and spill their guts, then they prove who they are. Until then, they're all part of a protection racket as far as I'm concerned. And they may not like that, tough luck. Gorka may not like that, tough luck. Working with them, on the side and talking with them on political things or whatever, or patting them on the back at their parties or whatever, that's one thing. You see what they do in the field, and I have no respect for them. That's just the way it is. Okay, so the sleeper cells. I don't know what he's talking about. Apparently James Comey, when he mentioned this thing about, and I'm not going to put the quote up here, you all can go look at it, but Q, I want to concentrate on that. And of course I got away from Q, as I've said 100 times, but I was asked to do this. Q brings up they interpret this situation to mean to activate sleeper cells. Again, that could be ISIS, MS-13, rogue FBI hit teams, who knows? But the FBI and the intel community certainly has the capability to start a guerrilla war in the United States. And people are going to be laughing, ha ha ha. No, 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 you don't understand. With trillions of dollars, you can buy a lot. A lot. And they have all of that at their disposal. So what do I expect here? Well, I don't know if people who get threatened by these rogues, first of all, they might not even realize that they're FBI rogue cells. They might not, or intelligence operation rogue cells, or in fact, like I said, they might use MS-13 or whatever, like they did with Seth Rich, Debbie Wasserman Schultz pulling a hit on Seth Rich, and then killing the MS-13 members that pulled off the assassination. They were obviously killed by professional assassins. But regardless, the point is that whole apparatus is available to the intel community, especially the FBI in this case. So a lot of people could be accosted by individuals or groups of individuals and not even realize that it's being sponsored by the FBI. So everyone, legislators, members of the executive branch, patriots like us, we all need to have our situational awareness up and running, because this is an extremely dangerous time. I've been warning about it for a long time, that these people in power would destroy everything rather than lose power. And it's going to be really tricky over the next few days. I am certain that Trump has contingency plans in place, but as I've said all along, you cannot depend on anybody in government to protect you. That is your God-given, constitutionally protected right under the Second Amendment, First and Second Amendments, etc. And those rights are responsibilities. In other words, that you have to exercise your ability to respond. So this is an individual thing, and you have to take it seriously. We could see some really bad things start to happen. I started warning about Antifa, and they kind of blew it out. At least that's the way it looks at this point. The Soros-funded money, and again, it wasn't Soros's money. It was part of this stolen money that they've gotten from their black ops, etc. Just laundering it through Soros, who wouldn't spend a dime of his own money on this, I'm sure. But the leftists, Marxists, the Antifas, those people could still be wound up again. And I know you say, well, it didn't happen before, but it kind of did. It's just that the response by patriots and by the American people has put it on hold to some extent, and that's been real important, and we need to keep doing that. But anyway, you got to keep your situational awareness up so that you know what's happening. And I think what I'll do is I'll change course here just a little bit. I know I'm talking a lot, but I wanted to get all of this out. You know I'm a Donald Trump supporter. Absolutely. If you don't know that by all the things I've said and done, then you're just not listening. However, I also believe that you have to be skeptical of political leaders. In other words, you don't accept them face value, okay? You have to stay vigilant. You have to trust but verify. I made an entire video about that, and that's, of course, Ronald Reagan's statement. I think Trump has our best interests at heart. Not saying he's perfect, but you know that I've been very suspicious of the people that he's put in his administration. The neocons, the Trotskyites, the deep staters, the same people that got us here in the first place, or at least were around when these things were happening. Now, I'm not in his shoes, but I think that's potentially a problem in a number of areas. And talking about these hit teams, we don't know who they are. This is serious. They've been planning this entire situation for at least 3 decades, maybe longer, the IC. And you just don't know who your friends are. You can guess who your enemies are, but it's kind of hard to tell if your friends are really your friends. So I worry about some of the things that I see coming out of the Trump administration. I've said this before. I gave that video the other night about wetware, nanotech, etc. And of course Monty then came out, Montagraph came out with his, where he said, the whole Q thing is to get you distracted off of what's really coming. And there's some truth to that, and I've lent Monty an ear on that and even voiced his concerns because they've been mine as well. Well, there's another person, at least one, and it has to do with 5G. Well, I'll talk about the 5G thing first, and that's David Knight on InfoWars. He gave a breakdown of that yesterday, and this whole 5G thing and the nationalization of it and how it'll invade our privacy and worse. Obviously very much worse. I'm not against technology, but if we don't rein in these multinational corporations and our government and put them in chains under the Constitution with a Congress that's willing to do that, and have they shown it in the past? No. They actually gave the CIA and the intelligence community the okay to lie to us. In other words, they expanded the Operation Mockingbird from the 50s, and then in 2013, 14, and 15 okayed the lying to us, and then funded it with our tax money. That's your Congress. We've got a few heroes in there, but most of them are corrupt and dirty. That's why I say you don't know who works for the deep state, who's on, and the intel community, who's on their payroll. I've had some really bad experiences with that, even at the personal level. I've hinted at that before, but I won't go there into too much detail right now. But the point is that David Knight gave some very good information about that yesterday. And there's another person, and this is on a slightly different course, but I want to bring it up because I think she's right, and we have to at least be aware of it, and that's Catherine Austin Fitts. And she asked a question on Twitter yesterday. As a matter of fact, let me read it to you. I think that's probably the best way to do this. And I can't disagree with her. These are the kinds of things that happen. Now, It's the Trump administration that's pushing the 5G. His FCC chairman has stood against the idea of nationalizing the 5G. All this could be smokescreen, I don't know, because the dangers are still there, whether it's privatized or whether it's nationalized, because the IC will still use it for their nefarious purposes. So the control system has to be in place regardless. So the nationalization, privatization argument might not even be all that important. It's the control of it, as a public utility or whatever. But going into some other things, let me point out what Catherine Austin Fitts said. Now, this is on Twitter, okay? You probably can't see it, but let me read to you what she said. She is at the Solari Report. This is Catherine Austin Fitts, who's a very well-known, she's into finances and taxation and that kind of thing. She says this, and this is on the 30th. This is today, okay? Quote, so in 2 weeks, Trump has canceled congressional reporting for the black budget. Ooh. I thought he was going after the assets of human traffickers, smugglers, pedophilia, stealing of resources, etc. Let me read this all the way through, I'm sorry. So in 2 weeks, Trump has canceled congressional reporting for the black budget, legislated NSA warrantless surveillance, and appointed vaccine maker Lilly's lobbyist as head of the Department of Health and Human Services. So how is this draining the swamp? I can't disagree. I cannot disagree. We need to keep our antennas up. Those types of things disturb me, and if they don't disturb you, it's because you're not paying attention. My two canaries in the coal mine for Trump. Maybe that should have been another one, but I know how massive the government corruption is, so you can't take it all down at once. I recognize that. But my two major canaries in the coal mine, and I've talked about them before, what are they? That Clinton gets collared, prosecuted, I'd like to say imprisoned and hung, but that's up to the courts. And that the Bundys would be set free and that the Uranium One deal would be exposed. The Bundys went in reverse order. The Bundys and the Uranium One thing, if the Bundys were released, not all the people involved in protecting the Bundys, that's a lot of that shenanigans are still going on. All of those DOJ, U.S. attorneys, FBI agents, BLM agents that were involved in that should all be fired and brought up on criminal charges. Where is Sessions? Why isn't he cleaning up his nefarious, corrupt Department of Justice? I don't know. People say, oh, he's doing it behind the scenes. Look, McCabe's gone, huh? I'm still not sure on Sessions. And I know a lot of people are saying he's working under the covers. Fine. Well, then why is Aaron Rouse still in Las Vegas? Right? Why is he still conducting the investigation? Why is he still covering it up? Why is Breitzig in Oregon? Why is Steve Myrie, who hid exculpatory evidence from the defense in the Bundy case, still working in Vegas? Why? Why can these people conduct not only corruption but criminal acts and not be fired and prosecuted? Until I start seeing that, I'm sorry, I can't believe that the drain the swamp thing is really going on. It has to be done carefully. I know we didn't get here overnight, and Trump doesn't want to entirely disturb the nation and make the whole fabric of our country fall apart. And it could if he acted too aggressively. I understand that. But some people have to start swinging. So those two things have to happen. Bundys were released. Not entirely to my satisfaction, but at least it happened. And now Hillary's got to go down. Those two things. And that whole cabal. So is it going to happen? I don't know. But with the people that Trump has in his administration pushing for the things they are, he has to take better control. How is he going to do that? I'm not certain. I'm not the president. I just know it has to be done. And this thing that Catherine Austin Fitts has talked about is very, very important. So there are a lot of things that we need to keep our minds on. And Q's not talking about any of this, ladies and gentlemen. None of it. I mean, he talked about the sleeper cells and the situation with the FBI. But all the other things I've discussed here about that, and something else I'm going to bring up here in a minute, he hasn't said anything about. They haven't said anything about. So that's why I say you don't want to get your tunnel vision on Q so much that you don't see the big picture. The epidemic, the 5G, the nanotech, the implantation of chips, forced inoculations, which is how they deliver the chips. All these are real issues. And you have to keep your eyes, you have to look at the broad horizon. What do I say? Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground? Yes, because as they're keeping you occupied over here, I'm not saying those aren't important issues, but as they keep you occupied over here, they sneak in the enemy on this side. We've got to keep our vigilance up. We absolutely have to. Okay. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll go to questions. Okay, this has been long, I know. I kind of enjoy these live streams. You know, as I was listening to Tracy Bean's very excellent review of well, all of her reporting, but she mentioned, you know, that she had to do a live stream because she didn't have time to in the morning. She has to go to work. Didn't have time to do the editing. You know, when you do a recorded type of presentation. And it's true, live streams can really spoil you for that, but you have a tendency to go longer, I think, is kind of how it looks. Okay, so I wanted to bring up one other thing. Again, I don't want to, this is tinfoil hat stuff to most people, but I recognize that such things do and can happen. We saw the heart attack guns presented by the church committee talking about the CIA and their heart attack guns, and that was back in the 70s. And of course our whole microwave technology and directed energy weapon technology and all that has really gone through the roof. We've gone way down the road on this. But I have to say that there are some things going on that if I don't bring them up, I mean, I could be called tinfoil hat for bringing them up, but by the same token, I have to say that I've experienced some of this myself, inexplicably so, or inexplicably so. I could give you some history. I told you at once that I do know that there was a chip implanted in me when I was leaving for overseas in 2001. I did not know at the time that that's what it was, although I bled like crazy. I couldn't understand why. Well, gee, with the size of the needle to implant the chip, no wonder. But then I discovered that I had a chip when I went to the VA for a checkup, and the doctor was going down through the checklist and asked me how the chip was, and I've told you all about that. Since then, I've had it removed. Yeah, anyway, that's another story. But I've heard all this information over the years about targeted individuals. And some of the people that are targeted individuals, I look at them and who say they are, I look at them and I say, why would they be targeting you? What do you have? I guess people could say that about me too. Well, no, I've been there, okay? I was in the Army. You know, a lot of people say, well, oh, Roy, you didn't speak up and talk about things, like you're coming down hard on these FBI agents, but when you were in the military, you didn't do anything. Wrong. No, why do you think I only made it to Lieutenant Colonel? I was lucky to make it to that. I testified against the Brigadier General. I stood toe-to-toe to 3-star generals. I even talked about the early on. I mean, this was in the late 80s, early 90s in radio shows about the problem with the terrorism counteraction laws that were coming out and who they were declaring to be terrorists. And I've talked about that before on my channel. I'm not going to go into it here. But yes, you better believe I was blowing whistles way back then because I saw where it was going to go. So at any rate, the point is that I think there are people that can be harassed terribly by the IC if the IC, the deep state, the shadow government feels threatened. There are a lot of these cell towers around. You know, I was telling you my internet service isn't really good, but I'm not far from a cell tower. I'm a little too close for my own comfort. But maybe that doesn't matter. Wi-Fi does it. Your actual phone does it as well. But at any rate, remember back in September, the staff at the Cuban embassy complained of some symptoms, and the investigation determined by our government determined that it was microwave technology that was assaulting these embassy workers, or at least some type of directed energy weapon. What were the symptoms? My doctor's gonna. You listening to this, Doc? I know you're here. He listens to all my transmissions. Let me give you the symptoms that these staff at the embassy talked about. And now there are people, vacationers in Cuba or whatever they're doing, who have complained of the same thing, Americans. Listen to this. And I don't think this is chemically oriented. Ear complaints, hearing loss, dizziness, headache. You hear that, Doc? Fatigue, sleeplessness, cognitive issues. In other words, you get confused. Because one of the reasons you get confused, and I had it yesterday, I don't know if anybody noticed when I was doing my recorded situation yesterday early on, I had a horrible headache. Horrible. I had it for like 3 days. And it interfered with my ability to think. I had to talk slowly. I was saying I was doing it because of the gravity of what I was talking about, but it was also because I wasn't feeling well. And I didn't want to admit that. But I have to now, after seeing this article this morning about these vacationers in Cuba, these other Americans that are there and having these same symptoms. So what am I saying? Am I a targeted individual? I don't know, but I've never had these problems before. Could it be my age? I'm in pretty good shape. I'm not saying it couldn't be, but it's very disturbing to see that these things happen almost like clockwork when I talk about the corruption of the IC. There is a correlation as to when I'm active on YouTube and Twitter and these headaches and these other things that happen. So if any of you out there are experiencing this, and I'm primarily concerned with prior military, prior police, prior government employees who would have been, or even private contractors, who would have been in places to have access to information and done any form of whistleblowing. Targeted individuals in the regular population could be attacked because they're being researched. I'm not denying that, but it's hard to really correlate that together. Okay, but people who are whistleblowers, etc., being critical of the government, if you're one of those, I would like you to write me in a private message on YouTube, or you can go to Twitter and DM me there, or just tweet me there if you're having these problems. I wouldn't think that it's across the board, although the weapon systems could be made to, especially when they have your biometric information, which they would me because I was in the military. I had the chip, even though I had it removed. They still would have, other information about that, where they could, send out these signals over a large area and affect a large number of targets. So that's my tinfoil hat discussion today. I just can't explain it any other way. It's not blood pressure. It's not anything. It just happens. Now I do have just so you know, so I'm not way out there. Having been in the Army, I had some things happen. I know I have some cervical spine compression problems, which could bring that on. But it seems to be exacerbated in the last year, particularly the last 6 or 8 months. So I'll just throw that out there. If anybody else has been having that situation, let me know. Okay. I've talked everybody's ear off this morning. Let me see if I can read any of these. Let's see where we are here. First of all, I want to make sure I'm not so far off camera that, okay, it looks like it's okay. The switching screens things is interesting. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Wow, that's going really fast here. I don't know if I can slow this one down. Let me see if I can. I don't have a touch screen on my computer. Oh, the Apache situation. I'm still not sure about that. There's software out there that could be referring to. I've seen some other explanations that it could be the actual possible murder of two to Army people. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure at this point what that could be. It wasn't my focus when I looked at the Q information, so I'm really not sure. Hibiscus moon crystal for that. Okay, I'll try that. Let's see. We're all victims of the chemtrail spraying. Very true. Red alert. Paul warns police state here. Okay, that's interesting. Let me see if I can pull that back down. I don't know how to do that. No, it's not gonna. There we go. Let's see. Roy, I got a story to tell. Ex-con. Okay. Well, let's see here. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, sinus trouble. From chemtrails certainly. Okay. McCabe will torch the FBI. Yeah, I saw that too, and very likely that's the type of guy he is. But he does know a lot of information. I wouldn't wait for him to torch it. I'd put him under interrogation right now, and very serious interrogation, going after all of those characters. I definitely would. So yeah, he'll probably torch it that way, if not some other way. But frankly, it can't do any harm either way. Oh, they'll say, oh, the institution will get ruined. Hey, the institution is ruined. Government needs to be embarrassed. They've had this free reign for way too long. Yeah, okay, yeah, I saw that about the VA and their. See, I don't trust the VA. Oh, that's where some of my problems started, was going to the VA. If I break a bone, I might go, but boy, I try to stay away from that place. Long reason why. Coconut oil, I appreciate that. Let's see what else we can do here that might be important. Okay. I don't see a whole lot of other questions that I can really answer here. I don't want to put anybody off. Is transhumanism, all of that's coming. Biometric ID for all Americans. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, that's two things I can mention. Yes, the Congress is considering a national ID or a biometric ID for all Americans. Here we go again. You know, the idea of controlling Americans to protect our borders. This has got to stop. I'm just, who needs a passport to go to and from Mexico? Nobody but Americans. Who needs a passport to go to and from Somalia? Nobody but Americans. It's absolutely outrageous that they control us in their supposed attempts to guard our border. So yeah, I see that as a problem. I do. I don't know what to say about it, though. It's pathetic. Government has no idea on how to do anything but tax and control you. They don't understand or they don't want to understand anything else. Their idea of fixing things is always, sorry, I bumped the table. The idea of fixing things is always more control and more taxation. The exact opposite to a free and perfect law of liberty society. Crazy. Oh, and what did Franklin say? That person will trade their security for safety, deserves neither. Our Congress needs to be told about that. They apparently have no idea. Jefferson said something that was interesting. He said, every man's liberty is in danger when the legislature is in session. Isn't that interesting? Jefferson said that. And he also said, he wrote the Declaration of Independence. He was behind the Bill of Rights and all that. He understood the importance of the First Amendment, the freedom of the press and freedom of speech and all that. But he did not trust the media. So really, the fact that he didn't trust the press but still defended the First Amendment shows a man dedicated to principle, even when it's not convenient. See what I'm saying? Very, very interesting. Thomas Jefferson is a hero of mine. So anyway, there's that I thought I'd address real quick. Who is in charge of Trump? Why isn't he using it? I think Trump is his own man, but he's trying to work inside the system until at such point as he can jettison. This is my take. When he can jettison these problem makers there, but he probably needs them at this point. But I hate to see these bad things get a boost. You know, it's not good. So I can't expect him to do everything. He's still only human. I hate to tell you that, but he is still only human. Oh, that was probably really bad, the mic. I'm sorry. Losing my voice here. I won't stir that next to the mic again. That must have really hurt some ears. Okay, let's see what else here might be on. Dunford is controlling. Yeah, I heard some people talk about that Dunford is actually the acting president. I think that's probably taking it too far. Okay, that's probably going too far. Yeah, I see some people complaining about Jefferson. Don't apply your ideas of morality or what's right and wrong to the people in the 1700s. You have no idea what they were living under, how they had to deal with things, the reality that they dealt with at the time. I think if you compare how they reacted to that and how they tried to resolve the issues compared to what many of us are doing today trying to resolve issues, they were far ahead of their time. So, you know, it's real easy to be accusatory. Look at all the Dems accusing, you know, Trump mercilessly and in false witness, and patriots. I mean, you know, so accusations mean nothing. Discussion and explanations mean everything. Okay, let me see if there's anything else here. Pence, I've been suspicious of Pence to some time, but, you know, I'm suspicious of all career politicians. So it's not just the fact that, you know, he's vice president and that. All real politicians, which Trump really isn't one. I'm suspicious of most of them. But again, you know, look at the fruits. You know, by their fruits you shall know them. And so far, it's been okay. A few little small things like his statement that Trump is behind the World Economic thing that he said. This was Trump or Pence like this time last year when he went to the Davos, I guess is what it was. So there have been a few things that Pence worries me about, but okay. Okay, let me see. Any other questions here? Colloidal silver thing. Lisa, have him go watch. Oh, shoot. Something's going on with my deal there. Okay. Where's Holder? Yeah, I don't know. I wish he was in frickin' handcuffs, you know, along with all of his other cronies, but I don't know when that's going to happen. I just don't know. You know, I'd be real careful. Pence is a Jesuit and a pedophile. You know, you got to be careful making accusations like that. You know, that's just not responsible. Okay, it just isn't. Okay, well, I don't see anything here that I need to... Oh, adrenochrome. Hey, little boy, want some adrenochrome? Oh, that's a bad thing to say. For those of you who don't know what adrenochrome is what the pedophiles and the Satanists do to... they scare young children. They get them to the point just before they kill them, and they extract their blood for the hormone adrenochrome. Which gives the Satanists, the pedophiles, their thrill, their life extension, their energy, etc. You can go look that up if you like. Adrenaline, okay, and the chrome means the blood, so it's with the adrenaline in the blood. All right, I think we're done. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Watch the State of the Union address tonight. Keep hammering them to release the memo. Keep hammering them. Oh, and that's another thing. Trump tried to get the late-term abortion thing resolved, and the Senate has denied that. They have not passed the bill. It's the thing where it says that a child in the womb can feel pain as early as 6 weeks. Well, it's probably a lot earlier than that. That's all they've been able to verify. It doesn't matter. That child is a human being at the moment of conception. And the Senate is showing their commitment to horrendous satanic things. Well, hold on just a second. This is somebody I should answer here. Hi, do you know I'm on a live stream? Are you calling in to take part? Well, yeah, because I've got it on my computer. Just a second, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be interested in knowing who this is. I think I can put you on the microphone on a speakerphone. Is there anything you'd like to say? Can I tell you? Can I tell the audience who you are? Okay, everybody. Of course not. You did. I'd never do that. Okay. This is Montagraph, ladies and gentlemen. What do you know? So anyway, you were just going to leave a message. What was the message you wanted to leave? Okay, can I put you on speakerphone and get you on the air? Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to put him up here, ladies and gentlemen, so you can hear him. Okay, let's see if we can hear you, Monty.
No, what I was going to leave you, I didn't realize that you could actually answer your phone while you're doing a live show. I thought it was going to get a voicemail. And basically what I was going to ask you about is, or see if you'd cover, is the fact about the passports, about how there's 9 states that is under the Real ID Act haven't, basically gone to the national standards of the Real ID Act, which was, of course, passed in 2005. So it's like Kentucky, Minnesota, Montana, Missouri, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma. 9 of them. I can't remember all 9 of them, but essentially you covered that, and you're going to need a passport to fly within, the United States. It's just ridiculous. So what I'm trying to say is that the 2005 Real ID Act was the sole purpose of tracking Americans through identification cards that all the states have issued, but because of what? Because of what happened on 9/11. And we all know that the damn people that were responsible for 9/11 or covered it up. Mueller is a great example. Mueller himself was appointed as the FBI director, I do believe, on September 4th of 2001. And he stayed in that position until 2013. Excuse me. Why is he in the Trump administration, Roy?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I can't. And, there are people out there that's saying that Mueller's actually working for Trump. The Sessions is doing things behind the scenes. But, of course, I'm looking for the fruits of all that, and I don't mean to rush it along, but I look at Mueller, I look at Rosenstein, I look at all this mess in the FBI and the DOJ generally. I mean, somebody got to, in my estimation, I'd like to say that Judge Navarro there in the Bundy case had an epiphany of doing the right thing, but I suspect that that's not the case. That she was told that she needs to, rule this thing appropriately for her own interests. Whether that came from Sessions or Trump or whatever, I don't know. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt at this point, but I don't know what to make of it. I can't give Mueller or Jeff Sessions or any of these guys, Rosenstein or any of them, the benefit of the doubt beyond my suspicions. I just can't, and I think we're seeing that it's not the case that Mueller is working for Trump. But I'll withhold judgment until Trump pulls this whole thing off. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm really disappointed. I mean, for the most part, I support Trump, but you know, it's about, man, where's the action? He's been in office for over a year. Where's the action? He's the one that said it. We didn't say it. He's the one that said he was going to drain the swamp. We didn't say it. He said it. Well, the first person that basically is out of commission is Anthony Weiner. And look how quickly they frickin' turned around, arrested him, indicted him, prosecuted him, and now he's incarcerated. But you mean to tell me you got Uma, you got Hillary, look at McCain, oh my God, this Mr. Sedition himself, and these guys are just tooling around, you know, walking around, even though there's unequivocal, irrefutable evidence that they have been involved in treasonous activity. It's just mind-blowing, dude.
I agree.
There's going to be no draining of any swamp. It's a joke. Because look at all the people during the 9/11 era. Oh, my God, dude. I mean, let's go through the list. You got Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Powell, Rice, Mueller. Oh, Jesus, man. I mean, really? Look at all these people running around. Why don't they start with the 9/11 crew? I tell you why they won't. Because the 9/11 was the beginning of the end right there, buddy. And you got to also remember that the first attack on the World Trade Center happened on February 26th of 1993. And who was responsible? The FBI. There's audio of them doing it.
Right.
And who was in charge? Who was the Assistant Attorney General back in 1993 for New York? That would be James Comey. This is a big deal, dude. James Comey also had a degree in religion and chemistry. Got that? And it damn near brought, listen, what I'm trying to say is the New World Order, the Illuminati scheduled the first attack on the World Trade Center. Everybody go look it up, please. I'm not talking out of my ass here. These are facts. February 26th of 1993. There was an attack on the World Trade Center in the basement. The FBI was responsible for all of it. That's a damn fact. There's audio recordings between the supposed terrorists, okay, and the FBI. That there is direct collusion. The mainstream media also reported on it. Now, why is this important? Because 2 days later, February 28th of 1993, it's time to change the subject. We go from the World Trade Center bombing to the Branch Davidians when the ATF attacked who? The Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas. Where's Waco, Texas? That's the hub of the Bush family. That's also a fact. And Comey had a degree in religion, which means they used the Branch Davidians to silence all of the investigative minds out there between the public from the World Trade Center to the Branch Davidians, and that went on for months and months and months and months. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Monty. I do.
It's just ridiculous. So for all these people that are saying that the swamp is going to be drained and all that, hey, listen, man, I could be wrong, and that's fine. I'm just a nobody, so I could care less if I'm wrong or not. But I'd rather be wrong than right. This guy is giving everybody all these little silly-ass puzzles, and it doesn't mean diddly squat. And by the way, let me look at your title again, because I don't want to listen to the audio and get confused. On your title, it says Memo, SOTU, and then it says FBI Rogue Sleeper Cells. Let me give you some information on that, just right there. Q, according to you, I've been watching your show a little bit here. I think I got to the end of it, or like the last 10 minutes of it. But you'd made mention that Q had made a post dealing with the sleeper cells. But guess what? That information was published a year ago in the mainstream media. Go look it up, please do.
Now, now I got to interrupt you, Monty. That's the kind of thing that I've had trouble with Q, is exactly what Monty just brought up here. Where I gave the earlier Q some quarter, a lot really, was for educating the public, using the rhetorical Socratic method through 8chan or 4chan at the time to start a discussion. I didn't have a problem with that. Where I started having a problem with Q was when these internal battles, the compromises started happening, the attacks on patriots who even questioned the situation with Q, the difference in the language structures and some other things. And the fact that, as you said, Monty, we were getting to the point where the puzzles became everything and we forgot about anything that Q didn't cover. And that's dangerous, and that's why I thought what you brought up was of so much importance, as well as what Catherine Fitz brought up. I think it's Catherine Fitz that called Q hope porn. I think she's one of the ones that said that. But she's trying to show that, we, as you are, that we need to keep focused on these other issues as well, not just the ones that Q presents to us. And I agree with you 100%.
Okay, also, I did an audit, the last video that you put up, when you said that Comey had made mention something about, it made some sort of indirect threat. I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I pulled from your previous video. I went and looked at Comey's Twitter account, and then I pulled, because there's certain programs out there, then you can pull tweets that have been deleted. You can go see them. You can go see what they are. And I did not see any tweet that makes any reference to any sort of threat.
Yeah, well, let me explain that, Monty, because you may have missed it. I can't bring up the Comey tweet here, but if and I know you probably don't want to do this, but if you go onto the Q board and you'll find it there. I can mail you the link if you don't have it. But Q has the actual tweet from Comey on there, where he's talking about McCabe and the hopes that McCabe does well and some other things.
Right.
And then where the idea of the sleeper cells came from and the activation of those and the 187 and all that. That was Q's interpretation of what Comey was actually saying. So it wasn't Comey himself in direct English.
Right.
But the reason why I was concerned about that and put it up was because I had a lady on Twitter who said, look, you've got to at least talk about this. You can reach a lot of people and put out the warning. So that's why I did it. But when I looked at it, and I haven't heard from Jerome Corsi, I've not looked at his estimate of the situation there yet, but apparently he and I were pretty much on the same page in looking at that as a possible problem. I'd like your input. What do you think?
Well, when I looked at the tweet, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't see anything that was inappropriate. I mean, it looked like Comey saying to, I believe it's McCabe, is that correct?
That's correct. And then he was talking to the FBI in general. Yeah.
Right, exactly. How I looked at the tweet is it was the equivalent of Comey saying that to McCabe as it would be when Comey got fired from the FBI. Who stepped in right away? One of the members of the financial firm that he was, I don't know. I think he was the private counsel for him. He stepped in and said the same sort of thing. You know what I mean? And he was very congratulatory. And as everybody knows, just recently, one of the CEOs of that company died in a plane crash in Costa Rica.
Right.
So it's going to be the owner of that mutual fund that was praising Comey for his service. So that's how I looked at it. It was more of a congratulatory type tweet. I didn't see any threat at all. And in my opinion, okay, well, I got to be careful what I'm doing here. the okay, like the Capitol for today. The State of the Union is going on for today. Is that right? Tonight?
The State of the Union tonight, yes.
Okay, and that's held at the Capitol, right?
That's correct. It's in the combined houses. Yeah.
And that's where the Capitol Police is.
Right.
Okay. Something to keep
Well,
in mind.
I got to say this here, okay? I brought this up some time ago, that you see, as much as I respect Monty, we have disagreements, of course. But am I sitting here calling him names? Am I saying bad things about him? No, because people who are intelligent, you don't want an echo chamber. You have to have other input. And so, Monty, I want to say thank you for that. Well, that certainly, I certainly take that into consideration. However, and this is where I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm saying I'm looking at the whole thing with Comey very cautiously, because these are dangerous people. They've proven it in the past. You just mentioned about Comey in the World Trade Center in 1993. I think they're fully capable of violence, and not just against certain individuals, but against society as a whole. And so I have to, when I looked at this thing from Q, and again, I haven't looked at Corsi's explanation, but I was told over Twitter and over the YouTube chat room last night that Corsi was saying basically the same thing I am. Both of us came up with basically the same estimate of the situation independently. And now you're the third person, of course, and you're bringing in a slightly different viewpoint, which has to be respected. And these are called courses of action that we put into a decision matrix to try to decide what the enemy's doing. So, no, I definitely appreciate your input, and I think it has validity.
Well, here's the thing, man. It's just because I'm not.
You might want to speak up a little bit, because I'm having to put you through the mic here, so speak up just a little bit.
What I'm saying is, I haven't been following the Q, I call it the crap, spelled with a Q, QRAP. I haven't been following this crap with that guy, actually it's a female, I believe.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
I haven't been following the Q nonsense, because it's irrelevant to me. There's no action being taken. It's just a bunch of talk. Because over the decades, we've been told by every leader that has ever stepped into office that things are going to change, and you can hope and all this. Screw that, I mean, it's nonsense. It's a bunch of fairy tales. So what I'm saying here is, when you told me, or when I heard you do that video, and what you compiled with what you just told me, my gut feeling tells me that the Q was a direct, intentional distraction away from something totally different.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with that entirely. And we can talk about that. We're still going to get our chatty-do together. We're still going to meet at some time in the future and have a live chatty-do, or we can record it depending upon how you feel about it. But I think those are issues that were certainly disturbing me early on, and certainly after the first of the year. I've called since the very beginning that Trump needs to show action. There have to be fruits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. Where I bend a little bit is knowing that he is showing signs of being a tactician to some extent. One of the things he said, and I can't quote it directly, but it's something like, "You move slowly, and then you attack fast like a wild animal." So I'm still waiting for that attack fast like an animal. I hope that it's not putting us off so that they can pull off this whole pandemic, 5G, nanotech, chip control grid. I hope he's not wanting to do that. I don't think he's behind it. I know there are members of his administration that are, and I've talked quite extensively about this with a person in the Republican Party, an insider, who doesn't believe that Trump would go there. But he, as Catherine Fitz pointed out, and I brought up here just a few minutes ago, he did those three things. He allowed the CIA and the dark information to go forward, the dark funding,
Right.
and those other things, which now I can't find my notes. But at any rate, and that's troubling. It is troubling to me. But under Hillary, we'd already all be in FEMA camps, getting exterminated, having our weapons taken from us. So regardless if regardless if we're being taken down slowly into the depths of hell, at least this way we might have a chance to react, as long as we don't let things like Q focus us so much in one direction that we fail to see the enemy penetrating our defenses from another direction.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing, people are saying, well, Q is real, and yeah. Well, you know what? Santa Claus is real too. When you're naive, and then when you finally wake up, you're told by maybe your folks or who knows who that what, Santa Claus is really a fairy tale. It's just a fable. Then you're like destroyed. You're just like crushed. And that's what I feel is going to happen, because you got to admit, if that memo comes out and it's got some nasty names in, some nasty frickin' information, and people are not swiftly arrested, you're going to know it's all BS, buddy, right?
Well, I would certainly look at it that way. Trump, and I've said this also from the beginning too, Monty. And you just said it not just a few minutes ago. You said that Trump was the one who made these assertions. Trump is the one who gave his campaign speeches saying that he was going to throw Hillary in jail and drain the swamp.
Right.
He said that, not us. So the onus is on him. Absolutely, I 100% agree. And but I've been in the military. I don't know that Trump is looking at this from a military perspective, but I understand feints and all of those different little things that you do to expose the enemy and their disposition. And I'm hoping that that's what he's doing with this thing with McCabe. In my book, and I think it's proven. I mean, I right now, with not even having the inside information, I could arrest Hillary right now. I could arrest McCabe right now. I could arrest Comey, and you said that. So why hasn't it been done? There is another thing that could be happening here, and I'm just going to throw this out to you. What if Trump is disturbing the ranks of these corrupt deep state people so that there's a lot of infighting? We've heard that a lot of FBI agents are starting to come forward and spilling their guts. Could this be a tactic by Trump to divide and conquer his enemies?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, I just feel that everyone is being lulled and pacified. In other words, the people that truly matter. Listen, I mean, you got to admit, Roy, thousands, tens of thousands, probably even millions of people are flocking away from mainstream media, and they're coming to YouTube and websites and forums and blogs and individuals to listen to their opinions or their facts or their research. And they're coming to YouTube predominantly, okay, because it's the biggest video sharing site in the world, right?
Right.
So if you keep the minds of the many busy chasing little puzzles, well, guess what you've done? You silenced them on issues that were brought up by the very individual that stated that he was going to drain the swamp, but nothing has happened.
Yeah, exactly. I see where you're going, and that's why I say we must stay vigilant and cautious. And what you're also saying, I did a video not too long ago, and I mentioned Dr. Joseph Farrell, where he brought up the very points that you just did. And, you can't take somebody like him lightly. And I know people say, he's part of the dark system. He's been interviewed by, the deep state MSM. Well, who hasn't? I've been interviewed by the deep state MSM. So what? I'm certainly not a part of it. But, they try to attack you on anything. But, yeah, Joseph Farrell basically made the same concerns known that he had that you just said. And certainly they're concerns of mine as well. And they should be concerns for everybody. We can't throw our critical thinking and our vigilance out the window because our guy is in the office. We have to continually hold his feet to the fire. We continually have to demand that he fulfill his promises. And if the fruits start to be shown not to be following those promises, then, well, first of all, our republic will die. It will be totally destroyed. That will be the end game. That will be the end result if Trump doesn't act. I'm willing to get. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm willing to give him the chance to divide and conquer his enemies. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to allow him to try to conduct this war, and that's what it is, in such a manner that it does the least amount of damage to the American people and to our institutions. However, by the same token, by their fruits you shall know them. So if we don't see these arrests pretty soon now with this memo, you're absolutely right. This is the dividing line. This is the time that we need to start seeing things. If we don't, then we have to start becoming suspicious again about what the end game really is. And I hate to say that, but that's the reality. As a military guy, I've got to look at the facts on the ground. If I don't see the rhetoric being matched by actions on the ground, I have to become suspicious. If I'm not, I'm being irresponsible.
Because you know what it boils down to, and I would hate for this to happen to, the country, or my country, right? Because you can bet your ass this is not your father's country. No way, it's not. You know what I mean? Not your father's country. Because when your father was alive and he was being raised, it was a totally different story. You know what I mean? Like pre-November 22nd, 1963. In other words, before the Dallas Day with JFK. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a totally different country, man. Like, it's night and day. It's like, you can't even imagine. Well, what I really worry about is that the United States will turn into a totalitarian state. Oh my God, dude, that's what I fear the most. I hope I'm dead and gone. I really do.
Yeah, and I worry about that too. That's why I brought up the things about that Catherine Austin Fitts said. That we still see the surveillance state being funded. Right. That entire thing. Trump might be using it to attack the enemies of our republic that are internal, and I understand that. But there are extreme dangers in doing that, in violating our principles to supposedly protect our principles. You can't have it that way. I was one of the few Army officers that didn't find any respect for Colonel Oliver North, because he actually said that he needed to violate the Constitution in order to protect it. You can't do that. You abrogate the principles are abrogated, and that's the end of the story. You've set that whole wheel of corruption in motion, and no, I don't agree with that whatsoever. However, we are in a war at this point internally, and it's a war of deception. It's a war of words. It's turning into a war of real casualties. People have been murdered, by whom I don't know, but it's interesting that they're all associated with the Clintons in one way or another, almost to the person. So, and now, if in fact there are sleeper cells in the FBI, which I am, sleeper cells in the entire intel community, I know that's for a fact, then are they going to go active to prevent us from regaining any more ground in the restoration of the Constitutional Republic of the United States, of affecting the change that will bring about from the Second American Revolution, the restoration of our republic? I think there are people that are willing to do that, and so like I said, I'm giving Trump a little leeway here to be the commander-in-chief to fight this. But if he betrays us, and this thing, I mean, they could assassinate him tomorrow. That wouldn't be his fault, right? That wouldn't be his fault. It was just show that, he is on the right course. And I believe he is. I want to say that to everybody that's listening to me now. I believe Trump's intent is exactly as we interpret it to be. But if we see something happen where it goes sideways, we have to keep a tally board. We have to keep score. And when the the actions are supporting the deep state more than the perfect law of liberty and the restoration of the republic, we have to speak out and identify it.
Well put, man. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because you know that Trump is truly a surveillance type guy. He believes in it. And that is just, that is just so freaking freaky. Because technology has superseded itself, and it's changing so quickly. You know, dude, it's so frightening, man. I can't even tell you. When you think about it, when you really get deep thinking about things, and wow, I mean, like this 5G nonsense. Oh, geez, man. I mean, it's just crazy. So, anyway, dude, I'm gonna let you go. My phone's about to give me a 2-minute warning. So.
Well, I appreciate you calling in, Monty. It's a pleasure. And I'm going to say this publicly because you've been attacked so ruthlessly. As a matter of fact, as you probably know, when you got attacked for your production on the dangers of prostitution, etc., they were saying that you were involved in all those things. Well, I came back and I said, well, if you guys are going to accuse Monty of that he agrees with that, then you need to accuse the maker of Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick, of Satanism.
I can't compete with Stanley Kubrick. So
no,
put me in that,
but the principle is the same. They're trying to attack you for doing something that Stanley Kubrick did as well, on a much grander scale. That's not the issue. The issue is what you were trying to say, and these people are evil that are attacking you. I'm going to say this publicly. I have a lot of respect for you. I like the way that you use metaphors, simile, symbolism in your presentations, in your videos, and you are a fantastic, gifted, and wonderful musician.
Nobody, dude. I'm just a nobody.
I don't care. You know, Shakespeare was a nobody until somebody discovered him. So, that's all a matter of relativity. But Monty, thanks. Go ahead.
But I just want to say one thing. Agent 19 put out an exceptional video ruining that video that has close to 54,000 views of those knuckleheads presenting that fake call. Agent 19 stomps on them so badly, man. It's just absolutely hysterical. I'll have to give you the link to that where he just ruins them. And he talks about there's no way that they could have contacted the NSA about Montagraph because the NSA doesn't have any arresting powers. They would have had to go through the FBI, which is the Department of Justice. So they can't even get anything right, dude. I mean, it's comical. But I just wanted to mention that. I'll be sure to send that, dude.
I'd appreciate that, Monty. Thank you so much.
It's a laugh. Or I sent it to you on Twitter. I mean, it's a frickin' laugh. It's just awesome. Okay. But anyway, dude, I appreciate it. I got to go because I'm telling you, my phone's going to give me about a 2-minute warning here.
All right. Well, again, thanks for calling in. Be safe, buddy.
All righty then.
Okay.
You too, sir.
Out here. Okay. All right. So there goes Montagraph. Well, we know him as Monty, of course. Everybody has things in their background. Everybody has some baggage of one sort or another. It's not who you were, it's who you are. So even if a lot of these things are true, there's always repentance. As long as you've never killed anybody, taken their virginity without their consent, harmed them in some way, that kind of thing. False accusations are what the devil does. Satan is known as the accuser of the brethren, the false accuser of the brethren, the bearer of false witness. We got to be very careful with that because it's a serious offense. Okay, I'm going to sign off. That was an unexpected gift there to be able to have Monty on with us. I hope it came across okay. I don't have a really good setup here, but hopefully you were able to hear him. I had to leave the chat room because of that so I could monitor the audio levels. But I'll go ahead and finish up here and just say again, principle, not personality. We judge based on fruits. We don't follow somebody because of their personality, their persona, or their character. We don't suspend our judgment based on that personality. We must stand and insist that those that we put in leadership positions to administer government, they are our employees. We must require that they follow principle. And the moment they don't follow the principles, which are the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, the perfect law of liberty, the moment that they're not standing up for those principles is when they are no longer someone or something that we should give respect to. So I'll end on that. Principles, not personalities. And I don't care who the personalities are. Okay? Thank you all. This has been a long one. I hope it was enjoyable. I'll try to do some more of this later with some other people as well. I'd like to get Jordan Sather on. He's amazing. Jordan Sather. I met him. He and I met. I was up in Washington State. He lives up there, and we met. And a fascinating young man. He and Isaac Green. Again, we may not all agree on what we all want to talk about or on all the issues, but we can agree to disagree and still be friends and not call each other names, and that's just fantastic. Again, I want to give a shout out to them. I want to give a shout out to Tracy Beans, to Scott Anthony, to American Intelligence Media, to American Intelligence Reports, to there are just so many good people out there that are doing such good work. The Las Vegas shooting information that's being put out by Shepard Ambulance and others. Just amazing work. So I want to thank all those people that are doing that. If you guys are hearing me, BP Earthwatch, Jesse Waltman, if you guys are having any of these weird things happening to you that might be, showing that you're a targeted individual, I know that sounds tinfoil hat, but I can't explain it in any other way. Let me know. Okay, I'd appreciate it. And again, thanks everybody for coming. God bless you. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States and the Second American Revolution. And God bless President Donald Trump in his righteous endeavors. And with that, I'll say good day. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, and keep up your situational awareness. Out here.